I will be starting shortly. If you could just please fill out the pre-survey, and you'll be entered into a raffle to win $50 on Amazon if you fill out the pre and post survey. In addition, if you missed the first part of this webinar series, you could see it on the YouTube channel, on the JOWMA YouTube channel, and you should subscribe to the JOWMA YouTube channel so you could get updates on the latest content. And we'll be starting shortly. Hi, I'm Brenda Neuman. I'm a medical student at Donald and Barbara Zucker School of Medicine. I am secretary of the JOWMA Teen Health Committee, and today I will be moderating the part 2 of the JOWMA webinar series on teen resilience, building a resilient you. We'll be starting shortly. Meanwhile, if you could please fill out the pre-survey. And if you fill out the pre-survey and post-survey, you'll have a chance to win $50 on Amazon. The post-survey will be posted at the end. You can find the pre-survey by using the icon on the slide. Hi, well, I'm going to begin now. I would like to start off by introducing our speakers. Welcome to our Resilience Teen webinar. And our first speaker is Dr. Wallach. Dr. Tzippora Wallach is a licensed clinical psychologist and certified school psychologist treating children, adolescents, and adults. She received her doctorate for combined integrated school clinical program at Yeshiva University's Frank Koff Graduate School of Psychology. She has additional training in dialectical behavioral therapy, also known as DBT, which is considered the most effective treatment for personality disorders, mood disorders, chronic suicidal ideation, and those who engage in self-injurious behavior. She is an assistant professor of psychology at Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai and is a board member of Nefesh, the international network of Orthodox mental health professionals. She maintains a private practice in Teaneck, where she sees children, adolescents, and adults who struggle with issues such as personality disorders, self-harm, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, as well as adjustment issues. She can be reached at 646-239-8032 or at her website, www.drtwallach.com. Our second speaker is Dr. Becker, Dr. Sarah Dienstag Becker. MD is a co-chief fellow of child and adolescent psychiatry at Zucker Hillside Hospital and Northwell Health in Long Island, New York, and served as the past chair of JOWMA's COVID-19 Vaccine Education Task Force and current co-chair of JOWMA's Preventative Health Committee. She completed her medical training at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, where she was selected to join the prestigious Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society. Dr. Becker completed her training in adult psychiatry at Montefiore Medical Center. She also received a degree in pedagogy from the Ministry of Education in Israel after completing her studies at Beth Jacob of Jerusalem. Dr. Becker is passionate about meeting the mental health needs of youth so they can not only survive but thrive in today's world. Dr. Becker will start us off with an introduction to tonight.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining our second part of the Resilience Mental Health webinar series. Tonight, we are speaking both to parents as well as teenagers. And actually, I'm going to flip that around and say we are mostly speaking to teenagers, and that's the language that I think I will be using tonight, and I'm guessing Dr. Wallach will as well. And we invite you parents to listen in and eavesdrop on our conversation. Let's talk about what tonight is and is not. Tonight is not obviously treatment. Tonight is obviously not therapy. And tonight is not going to give anybody a degree in psychology or psychiatry. So what is tonight? Tonight is about learning, what does resilience mean? How do I make myself resilient? How do I get there? Is there a way to get there? Is there a roadmap? And most importantly, how do I talk about this? How do I talk about this with my parents? And okay, parents, I'll talk to you a little bit. How do I talk about this with my child, whether my child is 5, 8, 10, 12, or 15? And so to get us started, we're going to start with Dr. Wallach, who's going to give us a little bit of a taste of some of the skills that we use to build resilience. And we're going to start with a guided imagery. I am sure that some of you have done this before. Some of you have never done this before. Some of you have heard about this before, have judgment. Some of you may not. I would welcome you that if you're willing to join us and just go for it. No one could see you. I mean, maybe if you're sitting in the room with your child or your parent, you could see each other. But other than that, you're alone, right? And I would welcome you, as anything that we do tonight is just go for it. Give it a shot. Try it on for size. See what you like. So passing it over to you, Dr. Wallach.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so the key with guided imagery, at least I think that the most successful way to do this is to do this while your eyes are closed, at least in the beginning. So that means, especially since we're not looking at you, I joke when I do this with people in person that I promise I'm not looking at them or any funny faces, and they shouldn't be looking at me as I'm doing funny faces. So there will be no funny faces. So I want you to get into a comfortable position and just close your eyes. No judgment. You can be sitting on a chair, you could be lying on your bed, you could be sitting crisscross applesauce, whatever you want to do in terms of how you sit. The best way though to sit is if you're sitting down, I want your feet on the floor, meaning your body connected to the floor in some way. That's the only rules with this. And if you can, close your eyes and be open, as Dr. Becker said, to a new experience that you may not have done before. So with that, we're going to take a few minutes to do this, and we're just going to close your eyes. And you're going to take a deep breath, and you're going to breathe in and breathe out. And I'm going to paint a picture for you that you get to go with it. So the idea is to think about and visualize in detail a time and a place where you have felt especially safe, secure, and perfectly at peace. It sometimes helps to begin the process by imagining that you're walking down the path through the woods with many trees on the left and the right. Eventually, you see a light at the end of the path and come to a meadow. Here is a peaceful clearing where the sun is always shining, warming your skin, and the grass smells lush. You can possibly hear the tinkling of a brook nearby. Perhaps it's just this meadow that you are looking for, or maybe you want to follow the road that leads to the beach, where the waves come and go, caressing the white sand. The salty smell in the air clears your mind, and the sound of the waves lulls you into a peaceful, almost hypnotic state. Or you can see in the distance a cottage tucked in the side of the hill, with smoke lazily rising from the chimney. It's cozy in front of the fireplace. The smell of your favorite soup wafts from the kitchen and permeates the air, bringing back warm, nurturing memories. Now, it's time to create your own personal relaxation image. Perhaps one of the scenarios above triggered a memory for you, or maybe another scene will work for you. Begin by creating the scene slowly, with your eyes closed, sketching it in broad strokes, like an artist preparing a major canvas. Visualize the scene, and then anchor to a specific time and place. For example, 3 p.m. on a lazy afternoon on August 20th in the Catskills. Now, start to fill in the details, shapes and colors, and the quality of light and shadow. Next, we're going to add the dimension of sound. Blackbirds cawing as they fly overhead, or waves washing up on the shore. Perhaps you can hear a faint melody, a long-forgotten tune. Now, we're going to explore the feel of this place, the tactile qualities. Become aware of the temperature, whether it's the warmth on your skin or a pleasant, cool breeze. If you're lying on the grass, notice the tickling sensation as the blades brush your ear when you turn your head, and remember the unique feel with this place. Fresh mown grass, bread just out of the oven, or honeysuckle on the vine. I want you to really pay attention to the emotional feel of this place. Become aware of the ripples of calmness, the reassuring feeling of safety and security. A sense of peace and tranquility pervades the entire scene. When you're finished, stop for a minute, savor the experience, and just drink it in, memorizing all the components. Let all the sights, sounds, smells, and feelings sink into your awareness. Now, you get to anchor the scene with a keyword, your choice, like Catskills or Mariposa. Use your keyword. Allow yourself to become fully immersed in the scene. See it, hear it, smell it, and feel it. Notice the sense of security, peace, and relaxation. In order to help you achieve the transition from here and now to your relaxation scene as quickly as possible, it's sometimes useful to imagine a magic door. Science fiction fans will be familiar with this concept as teleportation, in which you literally get transported from one place to another instantaneously. So what you do is you face the nearest blank wall and picture a door with a brass knob and a brass plaque. The plaque has your keyword inscribed on it. When you turn the knob and open the door, you will find, to your surprise, that your relaxation seat is already fully prepared on the other side. All you have to do is cross the threshold, and there you are, safe and secure. So with a little bit of practice, you're now ready to use this relaxation scene anytime there is tension or when a situation arises that is potentially disturbing or distressing. So when you're ready, take a deep breath and open your eyes. So with that, because I get to, a lot of people get to hear me, but they don't really get to answer me back on this. So can I ask Dr. Becker, what are your thoughts on relaxation exercises and imagery? Tell me.
So whenever I do this type of guided imagery, I always go to the banya. Like I have that place that I go. I think it's because I can imagine myself going there. So instead of going through the meadow, I always go down for anyone who's been there before, going down those steps to get there and just standing there by like the rushing water. And you could feel it, right? Like you could totally feel that mist on your face, right? And it's just like, it's so many, I mean, I know we're going to get to this later, but it's just so immersive, like all of your senses. So that's my place. But I like the idea of doing that magic door, kind of like to quickly jump in and quickly jump out. And that's something I'm definitely going to take away with.
So, and that actually is easy to do in class, because we're talking to a whole bunch of teenagers and their parents, but the teenagers, right? So it's easy to do in class. If you close your eyes in the middle of class, or even if you practice it enough that you keep your eyes open, nobody's going to notice. I feel like the key with everything with teenagers is to make sure that nobody's looking at them, because everybody's worried that everybody's looking at them and nobody's looking at them. So we want to find
they're too busy worried about being looked at, but you didn't realize that yet, right?
Right. So nobody's really looking at you, but if you do that and you practice it enough, you can imagine that magnet door and you can do it with your eyes open and nobody's going to notice. Or kind of, it's almost like jumping into a picture. Like you open up that magazine, you jump into the picture because I really want to be there and I don't want to be where I am right now and I just need a break. So it's a little mini vacation. So yeah, so the magic door, jumping into a picture, whatever works for you. There's no wrong answers with these things. I feel like everybody kind of talks about this. There's no wrong answers. It's just what works for you. So that's kind of my thought. Ooh,
You're still here.
On there? Okay, fine. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, you guys jumped off my screen, which is fine. I will figure that out on my end. Okay, so while I'm dealing with the technical stuff, Dr. Becker, do you want to kind of start and? So
yeah, so
there we go. Okay.
We're going to turn it over to Brenda, because I know we had a number of questions that came in. So let's devote some time to talking about the questions that came in ahead of time. And a big thank you to all the people who submitted questions ahead of time. We're not going to get to everything. We'll do our best to get as many as we can.
So the first question is kind of like the whole theme of the night, but what is resilience? Dr. Wallach, would you want to start us off?
Oh, sure. I will definitely start us off. I'll talk a little bit about what it means. And then Dr. Becker can jump in and we can talk about tips about what kind of works and what doesn't work in terms of resiliency. So the way that I kind of think about resiliency is kind of the ability to adapt when things are hard. And things are hard can be kind of big things like COVID, disasters, the news, kind of all getting bad news, kind of all those things that are going on in the world. And also just kind of difficulty, kind of bending back and kind of bouncing back after smaller things also. It's basically, to me, the idea of kind of to cope mentally and emotionally with a crisis and kind of to jump back and kind of be that Super Bowl to kind of bounce back to how we were beforehand. So that's kind of how I think about it. And Dr. Becker, you want to add anything? And then we can kind of talk about tips about how that works. What do you?
I like the language that you're using, because I don't know if you used the word yet, but the word that keeps coming up in my mind is the flexibility aspect. And so for those who joined the first, sorry, now I'm talking to parents, I keep doing this, but to the parents who joined the first webinar, one of the take-home messages that was offered was, you have these kind of great oak trees, really strong, really sturdy, but a wind comes along, right? A strong wind, eventually it's going to break. But then you go to a place like Eretz Yisrael, or you go to the Florida, where they have these palm trees, which are just flexible, right? The wind comes along and they're going to bend with the wind. And then when the wind goes away, they'll be able to come back. And so I like, kind of using that language of bouncing back, right? And one of the things that I think we're going to get to tonight, or hope we get to tonight, is how do I become more flexible? Because I think that's a really big part of resilience, although there are many parts of it. You use the word adaptability. The other word that comes to mind when I think about resilience is also endurance, right? Because sometimes it's a question of like, okay, how am I going to bend, till this passes? And sometimes it's, how am I just going to stand here while this is happening, right? Because there's not much I could change, and maybe I can't even change how I'm feeling, but I know I can wait this out.
I love that idea of the tree. It's funny, when I use it in my office, like the muscle that I use is kind of like, how can we be like cooked pasta instead of raw pasta? Meaning like, otherwise, because if we have that, if we're not flexible, then it's going to break. So how can we be, whatever pasta you like? I ask everyone, are you a spaghetti person? Are you a tagliatelle person? Whatever you want. You want the spirals, you want the triangles, you want the ABCs, whatever. But kind of like how can we be flexible, kind of, so that we don't bend under the pressure, and be flexible for our needs, for other people's needs, because that I think also kind of is really, really important, that whole idea of flexibility. But yes, we'll definitely get to more of that in terms of how do we be flexible, and kind of that idea of like a thicker skin. How do we develop a thicker skin? All of those kinds of things. But the flexibility is key, kind of, with all this stuff. I totally agree. And I think also, do you mind if we, Dr. Becker, do you mind if we talk about a little bit of like tips about kind of how we can kind of influence resilience? I think that's a great. So for I kind of think that at least, and you'll chime in when we talk about this and continue this conversation, I think that like flexibility kind of also happens when we talk to people. I think talking to people is key. If we don't talk to people, and we keep it all inside, then we break. Like, it's just not, and it could be to a friend. It doesn't have to necessarily be to an adult, although we are much more helpful than everybody gives us credit for, or doesn't give us credit for. Maybe a little bit, but
or at least we had time to make more mistakes than you did.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. We've done this a little bit before, and then we've kind of made a lot more mistakes. So maybe we can tell you a little bit about what didn't work. So kind of that whole idea of kind of like talk to somebody, kind of talk to your friends. I mean, like if you're going through something, that ability to bounce back, I think, is extremely important. And with that also, if you don't want to talk to somebody, how can you kind of express yourself? I think that like a big key of that is if you're not a talking person, that's okay too. Maybe you're a drawing kind of person. Maybe you're a, maybe you're a writing kind of person. And all that stuff is okay too. I have people all the time, like I've been blessed with a couple of people at my office that are like amazing artists, like unbelievable. And they joke that that they'll eventually put all their stuff together, and I'm cheering them on. And that whole idea of like, all right, so if you don't know what it's like, so then draw that feeling that makes you feel gross. Like, draw that feeling, draw that happy feeling, draw any of that stuff. I think that some of that, like that expression of that feeling, I think is key, to kind of build resiliency. If you're not going to talk to anybody about it and kind of get out, you have to get out somewhere, which helps with the bendiness. Well, we all need to be pipe cleaners a little bit. It's okay.
Yeah. And I like how you talked about, you need to get it out. And I think the muscle I use all the time is that soda bottle that you shake it and you shake it and you shake it, right? It's going to explode, right? You got to release. And now, of course, there's a way to release. You don't want to like open up the cap on your friend and then, you kind of have that mountain that explodes out all over the place. And you're like, ooh, I don't feel so comfortable about this anymore, right? We're thoughtful about who we talk to. We're thoughtful about who we express. We're thoughtful about how much we share also, right? But it's just so important to have that ability to express yourself. And I think sometimes what holds people back is that I don't know how to put this feeling into words. And so one of the things that I like to do with some of my clients is, how could we like learn about emotions, right? How could you kind of, and now like, with Google, it's so easy, right? Like Google a list of emotions, right? Google, and they're like different colors, right? So you're like, okay, well, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad, I'm feeling hot, I'm feeling cold, right? And you can find the words to make sense of what you're feeling. Because I think sometimes when we have these big feelings and then we don't know how to put it into words, right? Not even for someone else, but even for ourselves, we're just like, what's going on? And I think when we are able to find the language to describe it, whether it's to ourselves, whether it's to our friends, whether it's to our parents, that gives us a better sense of control.
Oh, I totally agree. It reminds me of, I'm a big fan of the feelings wheel. I know I didn't make it because this is a kind of impromptu kind of conversation. So I didn't make a slide for this, but please Google the feelings wheel. I have it on my fridge. In my family, we joke that I like to buy therapy things. I have lots of therapy things around my house. And I was going to buy during the pandemic it's a therapy wheel that has like, I don't remember the number. It starts out with like a smaller amount of feelings, and then it gives the vocabulary as it like shoots out. It's kind of almost like like a wheel, like an axis, like kind of like the smaller ones. And then there's like, so let's say sad, and then it'll come up with like different words for sad, and then it'll come up for like, and it just gets bigger and bigger. I was joking during the pandemic, and I think I'm actually going to buy one for my office, like a beanbag chair with all of it on it. And I love it, because I think that there's just like, sometimes we don't have that language. And I think you're right. I think it's key to have that language. So I'm a big fan of like, the feeling with Will is like all over my house, and it's all over my office. Like, gets posted everywhere. But right, sometimes we don't have those feelings. And if that means that, or you want to like find it in emojis, like that's okay too.
Yeah.
Like I have an emoji flip book in my office that has like fun. It's not like happy, mad, sad. It's like excited, exasperated, like, which is also a fun kind of thing. If we don't know the feelings, but you don't have to buy anything. Everything is right Googleable. But definitely check out the feelings, Will. And it's fun because it's in different colors. So get a color printer when you're like, print it out in color if you're going to print it out. But yeah, no, it's a lot of it is about kind of expressing the things. And if we don't have the language, you're right, it's a building block. Before we could talk about our feelings, we have to like have the vocabulary for it and kind of understand kind of what that means. And even if sometimes we have the vocabulary, we get stuck, kind of like a record, like kind of just our thoughts kind of get stuck and like, I'm not really sure what's going on. But yeah, I totally agree. Key.
I think that was a really great question to kind of start off with, because I think that sometimes there's like a misconception with resilience and like endurance of like just like kind of sucking it up and moving on, but like it's just the opposite of like expression. Our next question is, how does stress affect your mental health, and can I learn how to respond differently to stress? Oh, Dr. Becker, can you start off? Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I'll give Dr. Wallach a breather so she could drink her water, So, can I learn to respond differently to stress? The answer is yes. That is why we're doing this, because we do believe, and we know, right? We believe, it's not like Torah Mimoshe Misinai. This is like, we know this from science. We know this from evidence that there are different ways to respond to stress. And those different ways will get different outcomes in how you feel. And I think, again, there's this element of flexibility where what might work for one person may not necessarily work for another person, but we want you to try it on for size. And you might need to try it on a couple of times, like a dress, right? You might need to try it on a couple of times before, more like a pair of shoes, right? Sometimes like shoes, you kind of need to try it a couple of times, take a walk around before you could figure out if it's the right thing. So try it on for size, but try it on like a pair of shoes, not like a dress. And what works for one situation may not necessarily work for another situation. So what I like to tell people is, listen, when you're faced with a problem, you have 4 choices, okay? You can solve the problem, and we'll talk about, maybe you'll give me a few minutes so you can talk about, why that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. You can change how you feel about the situation, about the problem. You can decide that I'm going to just accept this feeling that I have right now because I'm actually not able to change how I feel about it. Or you could choose to stay miserable. Or 4.2 is you can make yourself feel even worse, right? And that is basically the choice when you're faced with any sort of problem, right? And you might say, okay, well, don't I always want to try to solve the problem? And the answer is sometimes yes, right? Sometimes if the problem is I'm failing chemistry, the best thing probably to do is to borrow your friend's notes, see if you can get a tutor, see if you can get extra help, go to a crash course, whatever. Sometimes though, it's like my parents just announced that my father got a new job and we're moving halfway across the country, and I'm leaving all my friends behind. So I guess solving the problem would be running away from home to live in your friend's basement, but that's not the one that we want you to pick in that situation, right? It may be, okay, well, can I feel differently about this, right? Can I find the silver lining? Can I feel excited about it? It may be, I'm not going to be able to feel differently about this right now because this kind of stinks, right? I'm in 10th grade and I'm moving halfway across the country. But I know that in 3 months, I'm not going to feel as bad as I do now. And in 6 months, I'm going to feel even less bad than I do now. And in a year, because I know what my capabilities are in terms of making friends and keeping the friends that I have, I'm going to feel even less bad, right? Or again, of course, you can choose to stay miserable, which this is a choice. And I think if I had to pick one thing that what I'm trying to say here is how we manage stress is a choice. And the first step is to realize that whatever we're doing, we're making a choice. I don't know what Dr. Wallach, you want to add to that?
I agree with you. I think that there's also, even before that, I think that is, I love the 4-point plan. And I want to kind of address the not do anything and being more miserable. I think we also, with that idea of the choice, you have to also have a choice that there's a problem. You have to recognize that there's a problem, meaning, and with that, meaning like, otherwise, the example that I always kind of talk about is kind of like, when you like go for a walk and like, and you go for a hike and there's like a pebble in your shoe, right? And it's like rubbing at your foot and it's rubbing at your foot and you're rubbing at your foot. So if we don't acknowledge that there's a pebble in our shoe, it's just going to continue to hurt us. We have to stop and kind of acknowledge that there is, and then you got a problem solved to take it out or not. Like, or do I need a Band-Aid? Like, what do I need to do now, right? But that's even like with that kind of problem solving and that stress, we have to acknowledge that there's an issue, and then like decide that we're going to do something about it. I mean, you could leave I'm not leaving the rock in my shoe, but you can do whatever you want. Kind of like the rock, the sand, kind of whatever it is. I think that's like so important to kind of acknowledge that there's a problem and kind of sit down and kind of think about it, right? Like, you're right. If we're moving to Australia, there's like that what is it? Alexander, no good, very bad day.
Yeah.
And we're moving to Australia. I want to move to Australia, right? So right, you're right. Like there's not that much that we could do. Now we have to cope and bend one way. Or if it's right, I'm feeling chemistry, then I have to figure out the problem solve. Or I got like, how do I kind of react to that kind of stress? And what do I do? And it kind of works different ways. And I love the idea of the dress versus the shoes, because I say it all the time. Say it all the time. Like, just because it didn't work once doesn't mean like it's not going to work a different time. And it's not that it's not a good strategy. It's just that circumstance, it just didn't work and you weren't in the mood. That's okay. Like that's really okay. But I love I'm going to steal that also in like the dress versus the shoes. That's it.
It's copyrighted.
I'm all about the muscles. So I love whatever I can borrow from people, but that's great. But yeah, it's true. And just because it didn't work that one time doesn't mean it's not gonna work the next time. It just means that today it just didn't work. And now I got to go back to my toolbox and kind of figure out what else I have and what else am I going to do to kind of deal with that stress. I think that's kind of the key, instead of getting stuck. So I'll tell you, like there's a couple things that my people, as I call them, my people know about me. So in terms of like stress relievers and kind of all that stuff, they know, and therefore all my muscles are kind of connected to this, because that's always works when we are, I swim and I ride horses. So that's like my horses is like, that's my like bliss. So it's the idea of kind of, do we have the horse blinders on? Are we in a race and we keeping those blinders on and we can't problem solve? And sometimes it's good. The reason why the blinders are there is because we got to get to that goal. So it's really important to not get distracted by anything else, because horses are very distractible creatures. But so it's kind of like, they're like big puppy dogs, just very, very large puppy dogs. So anyway, so the idea is kind of like, are we going straight? Is that the goal? Or do we need to take the blinders off because like we're so focused on this and we're so focused on what we need? Okay, but it's not working right now. So what do we do? Like, how do we balance that out? What do we do? Sometimes we just need to kind of not get stuck and kind of figuring out and problem solving and kind of pivot a little bit instead of getting stuck in one kind of area. So that's kind of what it reminded me of. Stream of consciousness.
I'll go down your stream. I like your stream.
Okay. So that's kind of what I think about it in terms of that. Yeah.
Next question is, how does exercise affect mental health? Dr. Wallach, would you want to start off?
I would love to take this one. This is my prescription that I tell everybody. And I think it's like the first thing that when everybody walks into my office, they're like, oh, so it works with stress, but it works with everything. And I want to be very clear when I kind of discuss this. This has nothing to do with bodies. This has nothing to do with kind of healthy weight, unhealthy weight. It is my prescription for everybody because it releases all these feel-good chemicals when we exercise. I don't care what size you are, exercise. It'll cause, meaning exercise releases endorphins, which are the feel-good and dopamine and a whole bunch of other stuff, but which you can all Google later. Nobody wants a science lesson, but so you can all Google it later. But the kind of example that I give, it's like smearing chocolate on your brain. Choose a babka. What kind do you like? Mine's always chocolate. So right, smear the chocolate on your. It could be vanilla. It could be cinnamon. It could be like mint chocolate chip ice cream. I don't care. Right. So that's what's going to happen. All those exercises are going to release all those feel-good chemicals in your brain. It'll make you feel better. And it's so important to kind of decrease stress. And then the next kind of answer that I always get is, well, it works, and then it didn't work. You're right. You're right. It's going to work, but the idea is to kind of think about it in terms of preventative medicine. I think about it in terms of kind of the idea of, yes, you will feel better. You will exercise for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. And what I mean by exercise, by the way, is raising your heart rate, if you can, and however as long as you can. So it's not like 5 minutes, meaning you could only do 5 minutes, that's fine. But what I'm saying is the prescription for exercise, build it up to like a half an hour, 45 minutes if you have time, and a couple of times a week. And the whole idea is kind of, it'll that kind of build up and that release of chemicals will last for longer than half an hour, 45 minutes, however long you're exercising. And then with that, so you'll feel better for the longer period of time. And then it's preventative for later in terms of, yes, it's not going to last for 6 days. It's going to last for as long as it's going to last. And hopefully that feel-good chemical will kind of make you motivated to do it again. I feel like a lot of people are kind of like, once you're doing it and you're exercising, it's fine, but like, get in there and doing it. Going right. So I think that it's a huge kind of key stress reliever. It's good for our brains. It's good for it's not always about bodies. It's about brains and kind of all that stuff. It'll make us feel better. But I could talk about this for hours. So Dr. Becker, literally I could talk about this for hours. So Dr. Becker, you want to yeah. Please feel free to jump in.
Well, I think, I like what you said. It reminds me of that line or joke someone once sent me, right? Everybody wants to have exercise, just no one wants to actually get up and exercise, right? But I wish I did exercise, right? Or I wish I had exercised an hour ago. And I think it's really important, the point that you made, Dr. Wallach, that when we say exercise, we mean something that gets your heart going, because we want your blood pumping, right? We want everything kind of flowing throughout your body. And I know no one wants a science lesson, but there is good science about how exercise helps your brain. There's even, I once saw a study that actually suggested that exercise can, if you look at it with a functional MRI, meaning which is how your brain metabolizes nutrients. Okay, we're not going there. We are not going there. But it can have similar effects to antidepressants. That is how powerful exercise is. And again, I think the idea is anything that we don't tell people to do anything, right, Dr. Wallach? We suggest, we recommend, or no, we tell people to do things. Do we tell people to do things? I don't know what your style is.
I suggest it highly.
I highly recommend it. Highly recommend
it. You do whatever you want, but I would highly recommend it.
And
I will check in with you if you don't do it, because I think it's a good idea.
But luckily we can't see you, so we're not going to check back in with you, whether you exercise tomorrow or not. But all the things that we suggest, you're right, it's not going to last forever. The same way that you need to brush your teeth twice a day, it's not going to last forever. And you know what the other thing that you keep needing to do? You keep needing to feed yourself. Like my children, they get hungry again. Like I give them breakfast and then they get hungry again by lunch. Boy, they're crazy. But that's what happens, right? But it doesn't mean, because they're hungry by lunch, it doesn't mean they didn't need to eat breakfast. It just means that they need to eat lunch too, right? And then unfortunately, they're going to need to eat supper, and tomorrow they're going to need to eat breakfast also. But what we want you to do is to capitalize off of that feel good. Okay, so you tried a skill, you tried guided imagery, and it lasted. Well, what are you going to do next, right? And what are you going to do next? And you feel good after you exercise. Okay, so what are you going to do with that feel good feeling? Sometimes it's just relaxing, and that's okay. And watch a movie, read a book, that's fine too, right? But the idea is let's be, and I'm going to use a word which we've danced around maybe somewhat tonight, but we haven't said said it, you know, out loud, is be mindful, right? Be mindful, you're making decisions, be conscious about what you're doing.
Right, I agree. And it also, and what I like and what Dr. Becker likes, I mean, I joke, I talk about the swimming and the horseback riding all the time, but the like, you don't have to swim. You could hate swimming. You don't want to get your hair wet. Oh, okay. Like, do whatever works for you in terms of, in kind of short bursts. And yeah, it's whatever works for you, and kind of stick with the plan. Getting of kind of, when you know that you feel good afterwards, what can you do? But you're right, that it's that balance of kind of doing that. And can I mention, because since we're talking about exercise, and I think that another piece of it is like really important in terms of stressing and self-care, the eating and the sleeping is really important too. Like the eating and the sleeping in terms of like, I don't know about you guys, but if I don't sleep, I get crabby, like really crabby. And if I don't eat enough, like that balance, like in terms of like keeping our stress levels, the balance, eating, the sleep, and the exercise are like the three kind of the trifecta of the three important things. Like, so like the example I always like kind of talk about is like, you know, Tisha B'Av at 3 o'clock, you don't want to talk to me. Like, I'm not like very happy to be around. I get crabby. And I know that I get crabby, so I'm very careful about what I say. But I'm just saying, like, I get crabby. So therefore, like, being mindful of what we eat, and eating enough, and sleeping enough, and exercising enough, it's part of all of that stuff, again, is all preventative in terms of our mood. If we are tired, it is much easier to snap at our teacher, or snap at our friend, or snap at our parent. If we are hungry, and I never didn't tell you, you have to eat breakfast. If you skip meals, right, then I get crabby or hangry, you know, that's what happens. So, so that balance also of both the exercise and the sleeping and the eating, I think, are like key to maintaining our stress level. All that stuff is like super preventative of making sure that we can cope. Because if we're working on 3 hours of sleep, or we haven't eaten and skipped a couple meals, it's going to be hard to focus in class. It's going to be hard to focus with our friends. It's going to be hard to have fun, because somebody may look at you funny and be like, what'd you say? You know, like there's that piece is kind of with that stress, the stress level. I think it's just key. But
Dr. Wallach, you have a prescription for all your patients, which is, you know, exercise. I'll tell you what my prescription is, although I don't know how many people actually listen to me, is phone outside your bedroom when you go to sleep. And then people say, but I need it for an alarm clock. And I say, you know, many years ago when I was a youngster, there were these things called alarm clocks. You buy an alarm clock. That is not a reason.
And it came with the radio.
Yeah, exactly. You can buy it with the radio if you want to have a radio. There was music
with the alarm clock.
You can do whatever you want, but the phone needs to be outside. Like, at least, I mean, it would be great if we like turned it off an hour before bed. That I know is, I'm, you know, kind of.
It's a reach. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a reach. It's a pipe dream. But at least when you go to sleep, right? You shouldn't, you know, you're not a doctor on call. Last time I checked, that you have to worry, you know, are they going to call me and say, does the patient need oxygen or not? Right? Let yourself go to sleep, and then you'll talk to everybody tomorrow. So that's my prescription for everybody.
I agree. And I am usually on call, and I don't like it. I'm saying, like, it's nice to be able to go to sleep. It's nice to not get woken up. It's nice to, you know, so I offer it, but I also, it doesn't help me sleep. It definitely doesn't help me sleep if somebody's going to call to wake me up. Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. So yeah, definitely the checkoff prescription for that is super important as well, in terms of sleeping, balance, eating, and kind of all that stuff. And also eating stuff that makes you feel good, not makes you feel sick. Like, that's also balance. You know, the people that, like, you know, are lactose intolerant and they're going to get sick if they have cheese, maybe it's not such a great idea. Or the celiac, gluten-free, you know, like all that balance stuff in terms of kind of thinking about, you know, or not having too much coffee and then not being surprised, or soda, not being surprised that you can't fall asleep at night. So.
Yeah, I'm a runner, so the whole endorphin thing, I experienced it before I actually like knew the science behind it. And I'm saying, like, you really feel it when you exercise, the chemicals really make you feel good. I just want to remind everyone that there's a Q&A box that you could ask your questions in, and someone will either answer it or will answer it live. The next question is, are overthinking, stress, and low self-esteem mental illnesses? Dr. Becker, you want to start us off?
I was going to say, which one of us went first last time?
I was going to say, I was literally just thinking the same thing right at the time.
I hope I got it right. I don't know.
It's really fine.
We'll
cope either way.
Yeah, exactly. We're flexible. We are flexible. We're flexible.
You can go first. I'm not going to get mad.
That's good. That's good. I'm happy about this. So the answer is no. None of these are mental illnesses. These are part of life. I think the first question is, what's a mental illness? And for me, I'll say a mental illness is something that is a reason to seek treatment, right? And so, typically when I think of mental illness, I think of something that fits into, psychiatry has a Bible, not to sound like an apicurus here, but we call it the DSM, right? And it has a list of all the, possible diagnoses that someone could have. And so if you have a diagnosis that fits in that, in that book, in that Bible, so we say, okay, so you have a diagnosis of a mental illness. There is no diagnosis for overthinking, stress, or low self-esteem to my knowledge in the DSM. And I see Dr. Wallach is shaking her head. So she agrees with me that there are no diagnoses for that. But I don't blame you for, whoever asked this question, I don't blame you for the question, because I think what it reflects is that society tells us we're always supposed to be happy, and society tells us we're always supposed to feel good, and society tells us that we're supposed to have, let's say, a thick skin, or if life's going tough, just let it be like water off a duck's back, just let it go, right? Or let it go, right? Okay. And the truth of the matter is I actually have patients who come to me for the opposite problem, right? And they come to me because they say, Doc, I can't feel anything, right? And that, the word sometimes we use for that is they dissociate, right? They just feel like outside things don't feel real, right? They feel numb. That's not what you want. We don't want to go through life like that, but you don't get to choose. You don't get to say, I only want the happy feelings. I don't want any of the sad or the bad or the mad, feelings. It doesn't go like that, right? It's a package deal. I think, what we want instead is saying, okay, I feel stressed. Sometimes I feel like I have low self-esteem, and, we could blame different things. We could blame social media. We could blame that a little bit, but I think there are other, guess what? Low self-esteem.
And there's research, I'm going to jump in there, and there's research that's showing that all that stuff is actually bad for us, even though no one of you teenagers want to hear about that, but there's lots of research on it that it's not great.
Yeah. Well, so what I always like to say is, listen, there is research that suggests that if you are feeling good, and then you go and use social media and you post about it, it will make you feel better. So, because if I say it's bad all the time, then no one listens to me. So I'll say, yeah, if you're feeling good and then you post about feeling good, then odds are you will feel better. Of course, unless someone tries to play the one-upmanship
or you don't get enough likes, or you don't, all that kind of stuff. Then there's
on the hamster wheel. Yeah. But 100%, if you go and start scrolling through social media when you already are feeling bad, it is going to create a cycle of feeling worse. Even if and then people say, but no, but when I start scrolling, I feel better. I say, yes, because you have just completely distracted yourself in a mindless way. And then when you come back to it, you're still sitting with your pecula, you're feeling worse now, right? Because everybody looks
right. You saw everybody's vacations, everybody's this, everybody's grades, everybody's this, and I don't have any of that stuff. So it makes it much harder. Yeah. And I think to what you were saying also is that emotions are technicolor, meaning, like I'm saying, people are kind of chasing like the high of like, we have to be happy all the time. Why? Like, because we're constantly chasing the happy, and then that means that we can't learn to sit with the sad. And that goes back to the whole idea of like resiliency and flexibility and kind of all that stuff. I don't know you, I'm not happy all the time. Just not. Like I'm saying, like, and none of us are built that way. So that's kind of it kind of thing, and then people feel bad that they're not happy all the time. And then they feel like they're like faking, or they're not, like, who says we need to be happy all the time? Like, who says, but we're constantly chasing after the happy high. And that's not so helpful either. It's okay to like kind of sit and kind of let the, kind of like the idea of like emotions and riding the wave. Yeah, grab your surfboard and start surfing. That's what we're doing. Like it's sometimes we get knocked down and sometimes we like, are on that really nice wave, and that's okay. And that balance I think is kind of important. I think the key also, again, going back to the resiliency piece, is can we get up and get back on the surfboard again? Yeah. Like, we're not always going to feel happy. And we don't want to fake it either.
And I like what you said about emotions are in technicolor. So that's something I'm going to steal.
It is the DBT phrase. It is the quintessential DBT phrase. We love it.
I love it. I love it. And so if there's one thing, right, I always say whenever I talk somewhere, I just ask people to take one thing, right? So you could pick whatever you want, right? Because I don't tell people what to do. I just make like recommendations. But if there's one thing that I say, take away from this, is lose the word but from your vocabulary. Just lose it, drop it. You could replace it with and, okay? Just think about this sentence, right? I had a great day, but my friend didn't show up when she said she was going to show up. Or I had a great day and my friend didn't show up when she said she was going to show up. It's a totally different sentence. And you could do that again and again and again. Like, why? Because something bad happened or something stressful happened, do you need to automatically negate any good feelings that you had before, right? Things can occur at the same time and they're both true. It's not like one is going to negate the other. And I actually, on Shabbos, I realized that there was actually a source from the Torah for this. And I remember this, I don't know if you're listening out there, but my 6th grade Chumash teacher, you know who you are. But when she was teaching us about the Meraglim and she made us go through all the psukim and say, hey, what did they do wrong? And she said, no, their jobs are spies. They're supposed to report back. And the answer actually is that they use one word, and the word is efes, but. They say it's a great land and it has this great fruit and whatever, but we're never going to be able to conquer it. And if they would have said, there's great land and it has this great food and the people are really strong, with the kind of idea that it's not a but, it's not negating. Yes, the people are really strong, but we have Hashem, we're going to be able to do it. The entire course of Jewish history was changed by the word but. So I am going to highly recommend drop it from your vocabulary.
Right. I that is so true. It's kind of almost like when somebody gives you a compliment and they say, but it negates everything in the front of it. That's not helpful. Right. Yeah. That whole idea of like, or just joking. Right. Like it negated that whole statement. Switch the buts when and, right. How can we kind of accept both sides? So that's kind of important. I
know time-wise.
I was just thinking time-wise, what
I think there's one question I see in the chat, which is, can you clarify how much exercise can help when you are depressed? And I'm really happy that the great and wonderful Dr. Meakin put this out there. I'm a psychiatrist. I prescribe medication all the time. And I know there are people who ask questions about what does it mean to be on medication, and we didn't get to that, but the answer is absolutely nothing. I mean, it means that you're taking care of yourself. It means that you take antibiotics when you have strep, and when you have diabetes, you take insulin. Anyway, so moving right along. Exercise is a preventative measure. Exercise definitely helps when you're mildly depressed. Exercise probably would help at all levels of depression, but sometimes when you're too depressed, you just can't do it. And that's not your fault. That's like telling a diabetic, please just, control your blood sugar with your mind, darn it. And so that's not going to work. Sometimes exercise, is the word we use is necessary, but not sufficient, right? It's an important ingredient, but it's not the only thing. And sometimes the other things may be therapy, or maybe medication, or maybe something entirely different. So I
And
hope that answers
with that, I want to also just jump in, and also there's also balanced exercising, meaning I think that that's also key in terms of, meaning there are time periods for you, whether that works if it's a half an hour, but exercising for excessive, like there is a concept of excessive exercising, and excessive exercising kind of meaning if you're spending most of your day exercising, if you're 2 hours, 3 hours, and we're not talking about because you're a bodybuilder, meaning and that's your job, or kind of that's not helpful. That's not helpful either. That whole idea of kind of fitting it into your schedule and doing it for kind of a specific period of time, but not an excessive time that, like, again, it depends on the person. Saying like half an hour is okay, an hour is okay, but again, not 2 hours, not 3 hours, not 4 hours, again, with the balance, that doesn't mean that if you go on a bike ride with your family and it's an hour and a half, then that's bad. I think it's that balance of kind of a not way too long.
Yeah. And I'll put in a plug. If you haven't watched it yet, go to our YouTube channel and watch the Phenomenal Body webinars that were done for parents, one for parents and one for parents and teenagers, that talk a lot about that type of balance. Okay, so we are going to try to do something now, and I am getting information from our technical side that hopefully the webinar will not automatically close in 4 minutes. And if it does, thank you so much for joining us and have a great night. And don't forget to do the after survey, but hopefully it won't. Hopefully it won't close. And so Dr. Wallach is going to take us through the practical side, kind of another practical side of how can I help myself feel better?
So yeah, we're going to do it super, super practical. What we're going to teach you how to do is to do a self-soothe box. And with the self-soothe box, again, similar to what we did with the guided imagery, is we're going to take something from each of the 5 senses, and we're going to take a literal toolbox, a to-go kit. And with that, what I usually do is I recommend for my teenagers, I actually have one myself. My whole family has them. Meaning this is not just because something's wrong with somebody. It just, so like everybody has one, but I also recommend to make 2, a home one and a to-go one. And what that means is kind of, and we'll talk about what it is, the specifics, but I want you to have kind of one that you can kind of leave at home that has bigger stuff inside, and then a kind of short one, a smaller one, even if it's in a Ziploc baggie, in your knapsack, in your pocketbook, and kind of wherever it is in your pockets. So we don't have a lot of time. So I think what I'm going to do is, instead of going to like the kind of theoretical kind of stuff, I'm going to actually show you my box, and I'm going to kind of talk about what I have in my box here. And with that, before I actually lift it up, because it's actually quite heavy, and my family decorated it because they wanted it. They're like, oh, you're doing this. And then they each, by the way, different people in my family like, but I like this. So I'm going to kind of, wait, don't forget my thing, and don't forget my thing, and don't forget my thing. So it's a conglomeration of a whole different family members of mine and what their boxes are. So the idea is we want to put something from each of the 5 senses in the box. And you can have 1 of vision and 6 of touch. You can have 2 of vision and 1 touch. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. But you kind of want to put something from each of the 5 senses. And the important thing, for the reason that we're doing it to each of the 5 senses, is because some things sometimes work and some things other times work. Like just what we were talking about before, and that we need to be flexible. And sometimes that means I probably don't have any auditory in my box, and I'll tell you why, is a playlist. Right? That won't necessarily fit in my box. Make a playlist. I have people make kind of a happy playlist. I have an exercise playlist. I mean, it gets me going and moving, and I don't want slow songs when I'm swimming. Like, I want to get moving, right? So make that playlist of kind of whatever. So that's what I mean in terms of what you'll have a to-go kit and not. And I'm going to show you kind of the stuff in the box, but like an auditory thing would be, what's on your playlist? Have a sad depressed playlist if you want, or I'm stressed playlist, or I'm super happy playlist. And there's so many versions of how to do that in terms of, I'm not going to advertise all the music streaming kind of stuff, but that's one kind of option in terms of sound. But you're going to think about it in terms of what works for you, in terms of all of these things. Oh, the other thing that I have in terms of the to-go kit, a Shabbos box. Because not everything you can use on Shabbos. I also, with the boxes, I like literally everything to be in one spot, because I don't know, when I'm stressed out, I want to be able to find stuff. Whether it means like the highlighter sitting on my, I mean, you're in my office now, so like the highlighter sitting on my desk, the pens, even like the Post-its. And I know those are not really self-soothe stuff. It's just kind of like, I just need this and I just gotta, so I don't want to be like hunting for things and like going on a whole scavenger hunt in my house. You can actually, the idea of this is you're actually going to go on a scavenger hunt and find most of the stuff in your house. You probably have lots of stuff in your house that you didn't know existed. To have, obviously with your parents' permission, please do not take anything without asking. But please take all the stuff that you have kind of floating around your house. This doesn't mean that has to be a crazy bill at Target. Meaning, and if so, it could be an amazing savings like stuff, but this does not have to be expensive stuff. It's just kind of what works for you. So as I'm talking, I'm going to lift my box. It's quite heavy and I'm going to lift everything up. So the fun thing also is if you're going to get a box, like decorate it, go all out. My daughter actually, hold on. I'm told that I have to lift up and show you how beautiful it is arranged. So there you go. There's lots of stuff in here on the box, but I'm going to put it on my lap. I will show you. So things from each of the 5 senses. I'm actually not going to go in order of the 5 senses just because I'm going to grab whatever's on top. So this was one family member's choice for in the box. This is definitely something, if you're going to take it to school, put it in a container. So it's like the magic clay, the Mad Matter. So like that kind of squishy tactile. So that would be under tactile, some sort of like squishy thing. Obviously, if you're in class, you have to find out from your teachers and like what the school kit stuff, what you're allowed to use. And with the ones in your room, what are you allowed to have in your room? So for example, because we're going to go through taste also, right? So not every parent wants food in their room, or comets or ants or, like any of that stuff. So you just got to double check to make sure what it is that kind of works for you and works for your family. So just double check and ask. So yeah, so this is a great one for tactile stuff. I think I have a lot of tactile stuff in here. That's just me, meaning I like that kind of stuff. This is actually super fun and I stole it from somebody's room with permission. Obviously, I'm actually going to plug it in because this is actually great to use before bed. So let's see if you can all see it. So I'm going to shake it up. I don't know if you can see. There's, and I'll show it to you and then I'll plug it in because it looks like it's not far enough unplugged. There's glitter in here. So this is super fun to kind of use. You can kind of shake it up and then it lights up, which I'll show you again, and then I'll unplug it and put it back down. Right. So, and it makes really fun reflections on the wall. So you can kind of do that. And if you're stressed out, you can kind of breathe with it and kind of take a deep breath and kind of notice the kind of reflections on the wall. I actually, as a sleep technique with this kind of stuff is I actually love it when it rains because I just kind of close my eyes and listen to the noise outside. So it's not in a box, but you can make an audio kind of playlist for nature sounds. Some people like, the rain. Some people doesn't work for them. The waves, some people that scares them. The rainforest, whatever you'd like, but that also even on your playlist, it doesn't necessarily have to be music. And especially now that it's Spira, some people don't listen to music. I'm not even getting involved in all that other stuff. So the nature sounds may be a kind of another option to use. All right. Also a lot more. This was another contribution from somebody else in the family. Bubbles, right? They don't stain. They're super fun. You can kind of blow them. Blowing them can practice your breath. Some of the stuff seems like kiddie stuff, but it's really not. I don't know about you, I like bubbles. So kind of blowing, if you're having trouble breathing, you're getting like super like kind of panicky, you need to kind of steady your breath as you blow out the bubble. And then of course you can catch the bubble with the next wand and kind of stack them up, or you could just make the next one. And then you can kind of watch as the bubbles kind of cover your room. Again, if your parents let you. My philosophy in my house is it's soap, so I don't really care that much, but you got to double check. So kind of, and the bubbles get super reflecty. So that's also fun. So something like that also kind of blow, it keeps your breath kind of in check. And so that's another option. So we did a lot of, this one's a smell one. You don't have to get it from here. This one I actually got from Trader Joe's, but I got it a while ago. Essential oils, they have like roller balls. These are really super easy to keep in your knapsack. Let me see if I can open it sideways. Kept it in the box. They have all different kind of smells. So it's an easy smell one to kind of take with you because most of the time we're not carrying smelly things around with us so much. So that's another option. This one has bliss, relax, awake, and asleep. So if you're falling asleep in class, that's another option also in terms of better than coffee. I don't know about that, but that's also another option. I'm going to put that one down. In terms of smell also, and it's smell and taste, hand lotion. I know there may be boys here. The boys may not want hand lotion, but the girls, hand lotion, you can get them in lots of different smells. I actually have them in my office. There's like a array. I have a table with different hand lotions of different flavors, because sometimes you're in the mood for the beach, and sometimes you're in the mood for like flower scent, and sometimes you're in the mood for like citrusy grapefruit. This one actually is amazing. One of my friends got it for me. It says gingham on it. It does not, I don't even know what it is, but it's lovely. So it's another option. And you can also be super mindful about that. You can put it on, you can kind of notice a smell, you can give yourself a little massage in the middle of class. Again, nobody's going to notice anything being weird. This is something easy that you can kind of take to school with you. And I don't know about you, Dr. Becker, but when I was a kid, putting on hand lotion, and then the next one I'm going to grab also, was never done. Now it's like everybody does it. Hand lotion was like, the teacher would have been like, give that to me. It's going in the drawer for a year. Like that was the like kind of thing. And now everybody has them like floating around. The other thing that I have here is chapstick. This one actually looks prettier, but I usually have used the other one, which is the medicated chapstick. This is just kind of fun because it's stripy. And the inside one is also, oh, this one's not colorful. I have another one that's colorful. Medicated chapstick. Medicated chapstick is another kind of easy thing that you could take to class. Also, no teachers will take that away. It reminds me of when I was a kid, there was this like candy called Pop Rocks. Dr. Becker, you remember Pop Rocks?
No, I can't say I do.
You like, it was like a powder you'd put on your tongue, and it like you like bouncing around like rocks all over like your tongue. So medicated chapstick's the same way. I actually have here's mine that's it's always sitting on my desk. This is a medicated one, and it's like flavored. Soothing, cooling, refreshing, like a peppermint one. So you put that on, and it kind of wakes you up a little bit, and also kind of feels like it's like bouncing around, like it's like hard to explain. It feels like to me like it just wakes me up. And also I'm in my attic, so it gets like really dry up here. So I get the hand lotion, and I get two benefits of both. Like if my hands get dry, but it's another kind of way to kind of wake me up. Somebody actually told me that this was not mine, but I actually like love this. It's kind of a game changer if you like spicy. They keep like sriracha packets with them. That's like, meaning kind of it'll wake them up, changes your body temperature. So they like that. I'm more of a chocolate girl. So I don't have it in my box right now because we don't have food upstairs, but like your favorite chocolate, but like fun favorite chocolate. I'm not talking about like, if you have like Hershey Kisses every 5 minutes, then like you want to make it a little bit special. Kind of wanted something different. The Lindt chocolate balls, whatever it is that you kind of like. And if you don't like chocolate, that's okay. It could be a peppermint candy. Peppermint also will wake your mouth up, kind of something, or a caramel, something a little bit kind of different. So that's another option. This is my favorite, the favorite toy in my office. It looks like a baby toy. It's really not. It's actually made of wood, and it's super comfy. And it's funny, when I used to work in a school, and you can like build stuff with it. It used to like, everybody used to threaten, very lovingly threaten, that they were going to steal it because they loved it so much. And it would kind of make its way around the school building, and then I'd have to ask, and like, they wanted to, like, could somebody return the toy? You know, kind of like, and everybody knew which toy it was. It was either that or the Slinky. That was like the two kind of things that like walked around the school building. So this is super fun. It's called Art something. I don't remember. This is you could probably Google it if you see the image. It's like wooden balls. It comes in all different. It actually comes without color. I kind of thought that was kind of boring, but the color is super fun. A similar one, which is easy to find, which I know the name of. This is actually called a Tango. The Tango, it's like, I'm pulling it up pushing up to the screen because it's like nubby. This is also kind of a good fidget to kind of play with. This one's kind of huge. So everybody loves this, and like I will put it up like it's humongous. So this one is kind of easy that you can kind of put in your hands, and kind of like, it fits in your fist, or you can fit it in your pocket. So lots of people kind of like, it's another option. And I feel like fidgets these days, lots of, again, socially appropriate to take to school. Of course, we need to have the stress ball. I actually like, but I like, we're going to go a little like fancier than a regular stress ball. Again, nubby stress ball, because like you get extra input. And this one actually has, there's actually like balls inside, meaning, so like when you squish it, you can feel like the texture. So you got like 3 textures going on, which is super fun. The key with these, which I love, Ziploc bag, if you put it in your knapsack. I've had these explode. I actually give these out to people. These are like, I have a box in my office, and like people complain about which color, like they get to choose their colors, then we're kind of low on the colors. I don't know, an orange one, this is what we got. So these are super fun, but they really, I've had them explode. So like pencil versus this, it like makes a horrible mess. So if you're going to stick it in your knapsack, Ziploc bag for this, and the hand lotion. Definitely Ziploc bag for the hand lotion. Speed cube. People like those to kind of fidget with, kind of also. Doesn't have to be a speed cube. It could be a Rubik's cube. Another one of another addition from another family member is like these, which there's a name for it, but they told me what it was and I don't remember. But another, it's similar to that. It's another kind of fidget. And the last fidget that I kind of love, well, not fidget. These actually, there's like these little animals that are like aromatherapy that you can microwave. So it's a where did I get it? And it's like smells like this one's lavender. Home Goods. I think I got this one at Home Goods before Hanukkah or something. So you can find these online, but they're microwavable, so you can get the change in temperature. The other thing, last one, I promise. Last one that ice packs. Ice packs. Ice relieves stress. So you can either go hot or go cold. They have some of these things also that you can either microwave or freeze. I kind of like the option of something that's microwavable just because you can get the warmth. Freezer, you can always like grab something not so exciting, like grab a bag of peas and put that on your face, meaning face, chest, belly, those kind of ways to kind of, it'll be a quick kind of temperature change to kind of relax you. And that is, oh, and I have some body spray also that another family member put in the box. So that's what I have in mind. And I know, Dr. Becker, you have one also. You want to tell us what you have in yours? As
I mean,
down to put everything back in the box.
Mine is kind of small compared to that ginormous box. But the point is that you don't need to make a ginormous.
No, you don't need a ginormous box.
Yeah. You know, you could go small. You could go compact. This one I like to show people. This is actually my daughter's. You can make it yourself. This is just a simple mason jar, colored water, and everyone's favorite thing. Oh, I put it in front of my face. Okay, glitter, right? So you can kind of shake it up and then watch it settle. I realized I think I left my oil. What do we call that, Dr. Wallach? The oil one.
The essential oil?
No.
Oh,
no,
the
like
oil.
It's like a lamp, but it's not a lamp. But I can't find that right now.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's oil and water, and you shake it, and like there's
and then like you watch like the drops go down. This is not such a fancy squish wall, but to my knowledge, it will not explode. So you know, pluses and minuses. I like something with color, right? So you know, you kind of have the texture and you have the different colors, so you're using two different senses. And again, you know, we're not going into the theoretics here, but the idea is we want to engage your senses, because I'm going to use that word mindful again. We want you to be here, not there, right? We want to make you present kind of in this relaxing way or calming way or maybe awakening way, right? But we want you to be where you want to be and not be worried about, you know, the Chumash test tomorrow, which is not going to help you anyway, because now you're so worried you can't do anything about it. I also have one of these guys. Anyone see? I have no idea what this is called, but you tap the buttons and you're supposed to match it to the colors. It has a nice click to it. So you have the feel, you have the look as you're looking to try to match it. And I'm going to mess up my son's game, but it's pretty easy to put back together. And you hear the click to it also, which is kind of a nice thing.
That's fun, but those, by the way, because I get here complaints about, don't bring that one to school. The teachers get really annoyed.
Don't bring this to school.
Don't bring that one to school. Yes. But it's a great one.
Yeah. And then one last feeler. I don't have so many smells. I'm going to tell you what my taste is. My taste is a box of Tic Tacs. Because that is, number one, is not going to get you bugs because it's closed. Not going to probably get you in trouble in school. You could probably do it surreptitiously enough. That'll be okay. Don't tell your teachers I said that. And it will wake you up. But there are other Tic Tac flavors, right? You could kind of pick the different, like how minty do you want it? And that's nice. Like you could have a bunch of different ones, right? So it's like, do you want them? My mouth is on fire. It's so minty. I feel like I just went for like a pre-Pesach car wash. Do I want, you know, like more, you know, subtle minty flavor? So I like that. And then my last one is this kind of fidget, which again is stretchy, flexible. It's flexible. Oh my goodness, look at that. I didn't even realize that till right now, right? It's our cooked spaghetti.
Cooked pasta.
Yeah, there we go. And then it has kind of it's a unicorn. So who doesn't love unicorns, even if you're 15, 16, 17, 18, and it has that different texture. So that's what we got. And I think we are just about out of time. So I'm going to reshare my screen so everyone can see the end. And
while you're doing that, some of the stuff that I have, I joke, I have on my website, I have a recommendations list and book list. What I do is I tell everybody, I put everything together and then don't buy it for me, find it cheaper. Meaning it's kind of more of a, like, I joke that like and I always tell all my people when they find something, I will add it because, fidget rings. That's another one that I hear about all the time that people love for school. You can fidget with rings. So that's another kind of thing. If you check out my website, you can kind of see it's called the stress tolerance toys, which is what these all kind of are. But again, don't buy them for me. But the wood thing is on there with the name and all that information, and the oil and water kind of thing is on there. So you can get the names. I don't know them off the top of my head, but those are other kind of things. And Pinterest, Google. I mean, like, there's so many things. All you do, Google is like a self-soothe box, and like there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ideas. So go wild, or rather, go wild within reason. With your parents, permission.
Yeah, I feel like a popper should be on that list of like things to put in a self-soothe box. Like all the kids have it these days. So everyone, if you could please fill out the post webinar survey. There's the icon to do it over there, and I would like to end off with thanking Dr. Wallach and Dr. Becker for speaking tonight, and Dr. Becker for organizing this event, the entire Teen Health Committee, including the chairs, Dr. Jackie Benyon and Dr. Gail Gutman, Dr. Alyssa Minkin, and Dr. Tal Weinberger for your guidance, and our COO, student Dr. Shangel Ifra Goldfries, for always being available to help, and of course our fantastic administrative coordinator, Onit Zisserman, for all the behind the scenes work you do. And again, this part 2 of the webinar will be on the YouTube channel, and part 1 is already on the JOWMA YouTube channel. So you can watch it over there, and just remember to subscribe so you could get all the latest info. Thank you for joining us tonight, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. It was lovely to talk, although it's funny because we don't get that feedback, but thank you for listening to. It looks like for the numbers, most people say done. Thank you.